Hey, welcome to episode 110 of Fresh Air at 5. I can't believe it. We're already at 110 episodes. Well, thanks for being here. I appreciate all of my faithful listeners. And if you're listening for the first time, hey, welcome. Hope you get some fresh air yourself. Enjoy listening to some podcasts and growing yourself. That's why I do what I do. All right, in this episode, I'm going to share with you a podcast that I was recently a guest on, talk more about ChatGTP because that's the hot topic right now, and wrapping up the week with a happiness thought. So stay tuned, and thanks for being here. And without further ado, here's episode 110, Fresh Air at 5.
I'm Katie Atwell, co-host of the EduGals podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to exercise by walking about my neighborhood, to take in podcast content, then reflect in an unedited video, which I finally post to my Twitter channel. This podcast will be a regular collection of the audio from these selfie videos. You can follow me on Twitter at Fresh Air at 5 or check out my website, briancarpenter.com, for other content I have created and collected. PLN Monday, February 13th, 2023, out here in the garage for Fresh Air at 5, not at 5, because this morning at 5 a.m. it was pouring rain outside, and I was tired from a full weekend of things going on, and here I am now later in the evening after I have listened to the Seeing to Lead podcast that came out earlier this morning, and it was a privilege for me to be the guest with Dr. Chris Jones as we talked about leadership and different things going on in my space and how that connects to the bigger picture. It was a privilege. Thanks, Chris, for having me on your show. Really appreciate that. I'd encourage people to go and listen to Seeing to Lead, not just because I was there, but because you got great content. You talked to amazing people, and I'm just so honored that you asked me to be talking. We talked about sympathy and empathy, design process, scientific method, leadership, creativity, reflection, all kinds of things. So yes, I will put the link to the podcast in the show notes, and you can go catch that. So people, I encourage you to go hear what Chris has to say. I had to say a lot of things. It was a really awesome, fantastic interview, and Chris, you did a great job of asking me questions, and I'm thankful that I had something to say for all those things. All right. That's all I got. I'm going to go to bed here soon and get up at 5, and hopefully it's not pouring rain and I can get out on the street and listen to some more podcasts from amazing people. All right, without further ado, have a good night. Okay, bye-bye. Hey, PLN happy February 14th, 2023, out for Fresh Air at 5 on this, the before the dawn of Valentine's Day. The sun comes up, but you know what? It's a great day to think about kindness and care and those around you and your significant others and stuff like that. So I hope you're doing that. I got a plan going on for dinner tonight, and my wife came up with this idea, but I'm going to follow through with it. She's getting home from work a bit later in the day, so I'm going to prep dinner for the family and make sure that they know they are loved. My 3 kids, my youngest is in grade 9 and oldest is, second year electrical apprentice. And my other child, she's in grade 10. And so, you know what? Even though they're older, we're still going to do Valentine's dinner together as a family. Wife and I, we don't go out on Valentine's Day. It's just too hectic and busy. But we do hang out together and spend time with each other on a regular basis. So we're going to do hot dogs in the shape of hearts. So if you need an idea right now for what's going to happen at your dinner table tonight, you take a hot dog, you boil it and cook it, and then you split it down the middle, almost from the top. Leave about, I don't know, maybe an inch of the top of the hot dog, and then you bend it around so the inside of the hot dog is outside, and you pin the bottom together. That's the points of a heart. Put it on top of craft dinner, and there you go. My wife goes, kids are going to think that's a little gross, but I'm like, hey, we're doing it. Well, we also got chicken wings and other good stuff that we're going to have, but that's what we're going to do. All right, this morning as I'm walking, I listened to episode 44 of the Evolving with Gratitude podcast. You know what? To do this justice, I'm going to pause right now, and I'm going to come back with one more thing. Happy Valentine's Day. Carpenter out. One more thing for February 14th, 2023. Happy Valentine's Day, Lainey and Darren. Hopefully you guys are doing well out there in the world. And, it's, I listened to episode 44 of Evolving with Gratitude this morning, and Darren Papard was the guest on with Lainey, and he is the founder of the Road to Awesome Publishing Company, LLC. And he talks about how his journey as a principal and the things he would do to show gratitude and care for his staff and people in his building, that he would go in and put handwritten Post-it notes on people's desks and, write them a little note and leave them a little gift, to show that he cares about them and gets their attention, and so it takes energy, it takes time out of your day to go do those kinds of things. But I think it's a good practice that we, care about each other. Talks about bamboo and how Chinese bamboo takes 5 years to germinate and come out of the ground once the seed has been planted. But once it does, it just can skyrocket and take off and grow like 80 feet or something like that in 6 months. And, how he relates that to that metaphor to our work that we do as teachers and working with our students, and we don't see the growth necessarily. We might not even see germination happen, but eventually, it does come out, and we have made a difference, hopefully, in kids' lives. Making that impact, that's what we're here for. That's what we desire to do. And it's fantastic to hear him talk about gratitude. And thanks, Lainey, so much for having a guest like Darren on your podcast. I get to learn a little bit more about him, understand the Road to Awesome a little bit. And, I've got a book that was published by a company from Debbie Tannenbaum. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Have a fabulous day. Coming right back. 1 second. The last thing for February 14, 2023. Hey, Chris, hope you're doing well, and I appreciate the content. You brought us today on the House of Ed Tech as you talked about ChatGTP and AI in education and how you have used ChatGTP to do some of the work and some marking even, and some lesson plans and professional development outlines for you and some of your students. And it's encouraging to hear that we can use these things, but it does take human interaction. We still are not taking that human interaction out. We as the thinkers, the critical thinkers, need to engage these tools with a critical mind and not just shut them down and go, no way, no way, no way. So, it's you're telling more of the story. And people, you need to go take a listen to episode 218 of House of Ed Tech, because Chris has a strong argument for embracing and thinking about these things that are not going away. When the caveman discovered fire, it changed it all. And there's probably those that are like, whoa, no, not fire. That could burn stuff down. I could hurt myself. And, we got to keep that away from the babies. And, but look at us now. Without that fire, we would have most of what we have today. And so it's about embracing and keeping an open mind. I have dabbled, Chris, I have just dabbled as a novelty right now with ChatGTP, and listened more to podcast content from creators like yourself and the Brave New Teaching and Ryan and Brian on Check This Out podcast and other places about, the pros and cons and what people are thinking about it. The whole point is that it's not going to go away. We live in a world, I was watching a show on Prime, recently, and there's AI in that. And, it's not going away. Is it as extreme as what we see on TV with Skynet? I don't know. I don't think so. But could it be one day? I hope not. But regardless, right now, this is the world we live in. We got to give it a go. All right. Happy Valentine's Day to you. Bye-bye. Hey, PLN, February 15, 2023. Happy Wednesday to you. Let me tell you, I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, laid there for a while, and I thought, might as well get up for fresh air at 5, get out the door, and I'm mostly done my walk already, and it's only 4:20 in the morning. So it's a bit early for fresh air at 5. It's minus 2 degrees Celsius, high clouds, clear, and there's a bit of icy patches around, but not too bad. I'm listening to Shooks and Giff, season 6, episode 4, recently came out with the Canadian Gens Talk Accessibility. And this is a conversation between Jen Giffen, the host, and Jennifer Casa-Todd, who is our guest and a fellow Canadian. Hi, Jen. Hope you're doing well. And they talk about accessibility using technology in Google and Microsoft tools, and that it's so important for UDL, needed for some, good for all. I like that. So very good. And, I use accessibility tools all the time, on my phone, in my computer, voice typing, things like that make it such a rich experience. One nugget of truth that I have to check out, one nugget that I heard that I got to check out is, Windows H for Dictate Anywhere in my Windows environment. And that's something I didn't know because I like to use Microsoft Teams. I have to use Microsoft Teams at school because we're a Microsoft district now. We're transitioning out of Google. And so I'm working into being more Microsoft in all the things that I do. But there's no dictate in the text chat part in Teams. So if that works, that's a game changer. So you should all check out this accessibility discussion and tools and Read Write and, Mercury Reader, the old Mercury Reader, and the new one called Post-it. So, yes, thank you, Jens. Appreciate it. People, take a listen to Shooks and Giff in this episode. Peace out. Bye. The last thing for Wednesday, February 15th, 2023, as I'm wrapping up my walk today, the last podcast I listened to,
Ready, Set, Growth,
with Nick Muskaluk, and it was season 4, episode. Okay, I just blew it. I forgot. But it's the episode where he talks with Dr. Michelle Borba about how can we make thrivers out of our students. And Nick and Michelle talk about the work that she's done in her book called Thrivers. And it's a book that I probably need to get because there's a lot of psychology and understanding about, how we can encourage students to succeed and see the wins as opposed to, always seeing the negative in things that around them. It was a very fantastic conversation to listen to, encouraging because, it is possible. And the whole point is, are you better today than you were yesterday? And those are the small gains that we need to teach students how to manage and figure out so that they can be better today more better today than they were yesterday. So I would encourage you to go take a listen to this episode. I will get the episode number correct in the tweet and in my show notes. So you can go and click on the links and those things for the podcast that's coming out this Friday. All right, we're halfway through recordings for episode 110 of Fresh Air at 5. Thanks, Michelle. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. And, it's patterns in the way we process things. I look at my own life and go, how did I push through these things? And those 7 traits that Michelle mentioned are so very important. All right, that's all. Take care. Have a fabulous Wednesday. I sure will. Bye. Hey PLN, it's early Friday morning, February 17th, 2022. Today is Professional Development Day, and I get to go to our district conference where we're going to learn some things, and I'm excited about connecting with colleagues and running into people in the hallway, actually almost more than going to the sessions. True story, we make connections, and it's about this ongoing relationship we have with others around us in our education system that, helps keep us going. So looking forward to that. All right, this morning I listened to, I think it's episode 98 of the Tom Schimmer Show. And Tom, I might get that wrong, but I will correct it if it is wrong. Episode 97 of the Tom Schimmer Show. As you bring us an impact update, your one word for 2023, and how you are seeing yourself being impacted. You talked about international travel. That's fantastic, because you have the opportunity to go do things that the rest of us, many of us, can't do. And I am thankful that you get to share that with us. So keep on doing that. It helps grow me in my space here, as I can't go far and wide like yourself. All right, you talked with Rob Dunlop in your interview section here, and he has a book called Strive for Happiness. And I was like, striving for happiness. Like, what is that about, And recently I was on Lainey Rowell's podcast, Evolving with Gratitude, and talked about the difference for me between joy and happiness. And that's what Rob's talking about. He's talking about joy of living and about how we go through our days with an optimistic outlook as opposed to pessimistic. And it was fantastic to hear the conversation that you had with Rob. I encourage people to go and listen to this conversation. Seriously, Rob drops a number of resources that could be of value to you, books and things like that. But just more so, listening to Rob talk about peaks and valleys and about routines and about doing things that are good for you in your life compared to things that are not. So that was really awesome. All right, that's all I got for this day. Happy Friday. Hope you all doing well. Okay, bye-bye. All right, the last thing for Friday, February 17th, 2023, on the Tom Schimmer Show that I listened to, episode 97. There you go, it's 97. Tom, at the very end of Assessment Corner, talks about how to deal with self-assessment and student self-assessment and what to do with that, and his mantra about the overrater does the explaining. Really good argument, Tom, about understanding, watching, anecdotally likely, that proficiency is related to, the ability to understand the content, and then the age of the student or school experience is the other factor that affects the accuracy of self-assessment by students compared to that which the teacher will give. I recently did an exercise with my students where I asked them to tell me what their report card mark should be as I was, doing final assessments in semester 1, and I had them, tell me what's the range. What actually should the number be, actually, out of a percentage, and then explain why you feel that way. And that was my attempt at including them in the conversation. We didn't have a back and forth. Unfortunately, I didn't have time for that, which I should in the future. But I looked at their numbers, looked at my numbers, and said, wow, they're in grade 9 and 10 and 11 and 12, and they have a pretty good handle of where they're at here in my course space and the work that we're doing in media design. And so it was a fascinating exercise. I encourage you to try that. Do conferencing with your students. Get their opinion about how they are doing as opposed to what you think they're just doing. All right, all. That's it. Happy Friday. Enjoyed my week. It has been good. There's been some stuff going on, but I believe I am an optimist. And yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. All right, happy day. Okay, bye-bye.
As my one word for 2021 is appreciate, I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific podcast episodes in the show notes for your learning convenience. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can also be found on Voice Ed Radio. Your voice is right here, and on the Education Podcast Network, podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day and get some fresh air before the day is out, and take care of yourself because you're worth it.